Sabi ni Aristotle, pag malaking bagay at ibinagsak niya, mas mabilis bumagsak dahil mas maraming property ng Earth. Pag maliit, mas babagal daw, less yung property ng Earth. Pero kinontra siya ni Galileo. Bakit daw hindi naisip ni Aristotle na mayroong opposing force? Para malaman po natin at maintindihan po yung kanilang pagbabayan, tunghayan po natin yan dito sa video ito. Good day everyone! Welcome to Sir Fox Learning Channel. For today's video, pag-aaralan po natin yung ideas ni Aristotle patungkol po sa motion versus idea Galileo patungkol po sa motion. So ano nga ba? Sino nga ba? O paano nga ba napatunayan o napasinungalingan ni Galileo si Aristotle sa kanyang mga philosophies about motion? Bakit hindi naniwala si Galileo kay Aristotle? Tunghayan po natin yan dito sa video ito. At kung bago ka sa channel na ito, huwag mong kalimutang mag-subscribe at hit ang notification bell on para updated ka sa mga susunod ko pong video. Happy learning!
Okay, for today's video, we will discuss Aristotle versus Galilean views of motion. So alamin po natin, ano nga ba yung pagkakaiba ng kanilang mga view. We all know that Aristotle is a Greek philosopher, and for 1,500 years, papaniwala niya ang buong mundo na yung Earth is the center of the universe. Nakapaniwala din niya ang buong mundo na ang bawat bagay sa mundong ito ay binubuo lang ng 4 na elemento. Ano po yun? Fire, wind or air, water, and ang isa, lupa, tubig, apoy, hangin. Lupa, tubig, apoy, hangin. Okay? So, the title of this video, of this lesson, is all about why we believe that the laws of physics are universal. Paano nga ba tayo humantong sa paniniwala na yung mga laws of physics are universal? So yun yung pinaka-main topic po natin, but specifically, we will discuss the views of Aristotle and Galileo on motion. What is motion? When we say motion, of course, it refers to the movement or change in location of an object over time. Movement or change in location. Once you move, of course, there's a change of location. Once you change your location, probably there will always have a change of time. Even as a step, nagkaroon niya ng time. Ibig sabihin, there is always a time involved in that change. So that is motion. So alamin po natin, ano ba yung difference ng mga views ni Aristotle and Galileo about motion. Okay? So, itong mga concepts na pinag-uusapan po natin about the views of Aristotle and Galilean motion or Aristotelian and Galilean motion is part po ito ng isa sa mga branch ng physics which is mechanics. Ancient Greeks or ancient Greek scientists were familiar with some of ideas in physics that we study today more than 2,000 years ago. Kagaya nga ng sinabi ko kanina, isa po dyan sa mga ancient Greek scientist, philosopher, I see Aristotle. He was considered as the most outstanding philosopher, scientist of his time in ancient Greece. Alain mo yan? Considered as the most outstanding philosopher and scientist of his time. Kaya nga, for 1,500 years, napapaniwala niya ang buong mundo na lahat ng mga heavenly bodies umiikot sa Earth. Kasi ganun siya kasikat. Ganun siya ka-famous that time. Pero, for Aristotle, may dalawang uri lang ng motion. May dalawang uri lang ng motion for him. Una, di ba, naniniwala siya sa apat na elemento. Pangalawa, naniniwala siya na Earth ang center ng universe. Ito, bago na naman tong paniniwala niya. Dadalawa lang daw yung uri ng motion. Ano ulit yung motion? Change in position over time. That's motion. So, for Aristotle, dalawang uri lang yung movement. It's either natural or violent motion. So, natural or violent motion. So, para kay Aristotle, ang natural motion proceeds from the nature of an object which depended on the combination of four elements. So, binase niya ulit yung kanyang natural motion doon sa four elements. Ano ba yung four elements ulit? Earth, water, air, and fire. So para kay Aristotle, yung kanyang natural motion, nakabase doon, nakadepende doon. So paano nangyayari yun? Alamin pa natin. Para sa kanya, ang bawat object sa buong universe, hindi lang sa buong mundo, hindi lang sa Pilipinas, sa buong universe, ay may proper place yan. Determined by the nature. So, may proper place yung bawat object dito sa universe. Kung Miss Universe ka, may proper place ka rin. Paano ma-determine yung proper place mo? Paano ma-determine yung proper place ng isang object? Nakadepende nga sa nature. Sabi niya, any object not in its proper place will strive to get there? Halimbawa, yung uwak. Ano ba yung proper place kaya ng uwak? Kung saan daw siya nararapat, dapat doon siya. Siguro naniniwala din si Aristotle sa birds at the same feeder flocks together. Sabi ni Aristotle, halimbawa daw sabi ni Aristotle, lump of clay. Alam niyo ba yung lump of clay? Dahil daw yan ay mayroon siyang nature of earth, of being earth. Ang property po niyan, or ang tendency po niyan, ay babalik siya sa ground, sa space ng earth, sa ground. Dahil yung kanyang property ay earth. Kaya pag inihagis mo yan sa taas, babalik yan sa ground. O, napapaniwala yung buong mundo for 1,500 years sa mga ganyang konsepto. Okay? And, sabi niya, kapag ang isang bagay naman daw ay nababagay sa air, halimbawa yung smoke, yung usok, ang tendency, kaya daw yung usok, ang tendency niya is mag-rise up. Nakakita na ba kayo ng usok na nag-rise down? Usually, nag-rise up. So, kasi before, wala namang mga gadget na ginagamit to observe. Usually, nag-observe sila, yung mga scientists, mga philosophers, nag-observe sila by their naked eye. That's why, kung ano yung kanilang na-observe, naisip, susulat nila. Yun na yun. So, kaya nung nakita ni Aristotle yung smoke, nagra-rise up. Kaya siya nagra-rise up kasi yung kanyang property, yung kanyang nature is air. Kaya ang tendency niya mag-place sa air. Kaya sinasabi niya na kung ano yung nature ng isang bagay, nakadepende, babalik yan doon sa lugar na yon. Halimbawa daw yung feather being a mixture of earth and air, but predominantly earth, properly falls to the ground, but not as rapidly as the lump of clay. Yung feather, yung balahibo, ano ba sa dahil daw, ayoko nang banggitin pa. Baka kung ano pa yung mabanggit ko. Basta, dahil daw yung property nito ay air and earth. Kaya ang tendency ni feather is mag-fall down. Sana all nagpo-fall down. Pero, hindi daw sing bilis mag-fall kay clay of lump. Dahan-dahan daw na nagpo-fall ito. Kaya, sabi niya, yung property nito is, may property siya ng air at may property din ng earth. Kaya, pag binitawan mo yan sa ere, unti-unti siyang babagsak, hindi agad-agad. He postulated that heavier objects would strive harder. Thus, objects should fall at speed proportional to their weights. So sabi ni Aristotle, yung mga objects, magpo-fall down yan, proportioned kung ano yung kanyang speed at kung ano yung kanyang bigat. The heavier the object, the faster it should fall. So para sa kay Aristotle, take note for that ha. Sino nagsabi? The heavier the object, the faster it should fall. The lighter the object, the slower it should fall. So para yan po kay Aristotle. Bakit? Para sa kanya kasi, kapag mabigat ang isang bagay, mas marami yung property ng Earth. At may property siya ng air. Kaya siya mabagal mag-fall down. Sabi niya, things on Earth showed natural motion, which was either straight up or straight down. So para kay Aristotle, yung natural motion ay ang movement niyan is up and down lang. Straight up and straight down or vertical motion. Pag sinabing vertical motion, either pataas or pababa. So, for Aristotle, hindi pa naman niya alam yung vertical that time, yan ay natural motion. Bakit saan niya binase yan? Nakita niya nahulog yung dahon ng halaman ng puno. Nahulog, pababa. Naturally falls down. So, downward. Tinawag niyang natural motion. Wala naman siyang nakitang nahulog pataas. Usually daw pababa. And then, sabi niya, yung mga celestial objects, ang motion nun is circular. Kaya naniniwala siya na lahat ng object ay umiikot sa Earth. Kasi nakita niya yung sun nagra-rise sa east, nagsiset sa west. Yung moon nagra-rise sa east, nagsiset sa west. Siguro, yung mga to, pati stars, ganun din yung nangyayari. Kasi usually nakakita siya ng star na malaki kapag morning, tapos pagdating ng hapon, yung star na malaki nandun na sa west. Kaya naisip niya, siguro umiikot yung mga heavenly bodies sa Earth. So unlike up and down, or unlike up and down motion, circular motion has no beginning or end. So para naman kay Aristotle, ang circular motion walang end, walang beginning. Or walang beginning, walang end. It repeats itself without deviation. At sabi niya, celestial bodies are perfect sphere made of a perfect and unchanging substance. So, may tanong dun sa unang leap ninyo sa week 1, paano na-determine ng mga Greeks na sphere yung Earth? Ito na po yung sagot niyan. Dahil naniniwala sila Aristotle na yung heavenly bodies umiikot circularly sa Earth. And pag sinabing umiikot, sabi niya, yun niya, wala siyang beginning, wala ding end. Nagre-repeat lang yan without deviation. Kaya sinasabi niya na itong circular motion is yung celestial bodies as it rotates around the earth, ayon sa paniniwala ni Aristotle, ay perfect yung sphere na iniikutan nito. However, may however tayo. Yung isang uri naman ng motion na gustong palabasin ni Aristotle ay tinatawag niyang violent motion. Ano yung una? Ang una is natural motion. Ano yung motion ng natural motion? Up or down? Ito namang violent motion for Aristotle, ito daw ay once you push or pull something or any object, that's already a violent motion. Pushing a cart or lifting heavy weight, imposed motion. So as the wind imposed motion on ship, the floodwaters impose it on boulders and debris. At para kay Aristotle, yan ay violent motion. So pinagbasihan niya yung waves. Pinupush ng hangin yung waves. Nasira yung barko. Violent motion. Violente yan. Tinulak. Siguro may itinulak din si Aristotle eh. O di kaya baka itinulak din si Aristotle at baka nabangasan. Kaya sinabi niya na violent motion kapag ang movement is push or pull. Kasi usually that time, tinatawag nila yung isang bagay base sa experience. O ipinapangalan nila base sa lugar, nga mga ganon. Okay, that's for Aristotle. Pero, may pero. Sabi dito, there were difficulties with the concept of violent motion. So, yung ibang mga scientists, yung mas bata-bata kay Aristotle, naisip nila, siguro after 1,500 years na ito, pangyayari, naisip nila, hindi lahat ng bagay ay pwedeng nating sabihin na hindi lahat ng motion of an object horizontally ay pwede nating sabihin violent motion. Halimbawa daw, yung bowstring, move an arrow until the arrow left the bow. So, di ba yung bow, hahatakin mo muna para mag-move. So, paano daw naging violent yun? Thereafter, the arrow's motion seemed to require some other pushing agent. Pero sabi ni Aristotle, yun nga, violent na agad yun. As long as you push or pull. Aristotle's statements about motion were a beginning of scientific thought. And although we don't agree with him now, di ba? Tumatawa na lang kayo sa mga filosofiya ni Aristotle that time. Pero alam niyo, napapaniwala ang buong mundo for 1,500 years sa mga filosofiyang yan. Buti na lang, wala na tayo sa panahon ni Aristotle. For nearly 2,000 years, ayan, dito 2,000 years. Nearly, ibig sabihin, basta within that numbers of years, 1,500 to 2,000 years, napapaniwala ni Aristotle yung buong mundo with his philosophies, pero hindi lahat naniniwala. May nagtatanong. Kahit naman hanggang ngayon, di ba? Hindi naman lahat naniniwala sa isang bagay. May nagtatanong. Laging may nagtatanong. Kaya dahil sa mga nagtatanong na yan, ito yung nag-lead para i-enhance pa yung idea about motion. This lead to the thinking that since the force required to move the earth is inconceivable, then it must be the center of the universe. The thinking was so entrenched that it was heresy to think otherwise. So, kung sinasabi daw ni Aristotle na violent motion lang ang mayroon at natural motion, paano yung pag-move ng Earth? Do circular motion naman daw yun. Pero, yun nga, hindi lahat naniniwala. Sabi ng iba, hearsay lang yun. But Aristotle's ideas of motion became so much a part of traditional knowledge that hundreds of years after Newton and Galileo, we still intuitively use them. So, after thousands of years or hundreds of years, sa later centuries, around 1474 and 1543, there was a scientist named Nicolaus Copernicus formulated the theory of a moving Earth. Di ba last video po natin, his laws of planetary motion. So, isa po siya sa mga tumindig, nagsaliksik, na hindi tama yung Earth-centered universe. Isa po siya sa mga nagpatunay na yung universe is a sun-centered universe. Sabi niya, Copernicus reasoned that the simplest way to account for the observed motion of the sun, moon, planets through the sky was to assume that Earth and other planets circle around the sun. Pero alam nyo, si Nicholas Copernicus, dahil hindi naman siya ganong kasikat like Aristotle, he was persecuted. And therefore, yung kanyang hypothesis, dahil hindi pa niya na, I'm sorry, it was not Nicholas Copernicus who formulated the laws of planetary motion, but Johannes Kepler. Pero ito po yung nagsimula. Siya po yung nag-umpisa para ma-open, mabuksan yung mga isip, yung mata ng iba pang mga tao sa ipinapapaniwala sa kanila ni Aristotle. Pero dahil sa kanyang isiniwalat, wala ba ibang term? Sa kanyang mga hypothesis na ito, he was persecuted. Kasi nga, di ba nga, for 1,500 years, napapaniwala ni Aristotle at ng iba pang mga Greeks ang buong mundo sa mga philosophies niya sa buhay. At then ito, all of a sudden, merong kumukontra. Talagang kumukontra. And then, sasabihin na ganun na lang. That's why, si Copernicus ay nanahimik na lang. Dahil pinersecute siya that time. Also, he could not explain what made the earth move. Hindi rin niya masyado ma-explain paano nagmo-move yung earth. Kasi wala nga mga equipment pa that time to assure paano maaaral yung mga heavenly bodies. Aristotle's view had become so entrenched in church doctrine that to contradict them was to question the church itself. Just imagine that. Pag kinontran mo si Aristotle, para mo na rin kinontra ang church. So, paano pa i-deny yung sinasabi ni Aristotle? Maniniwala ka na lang talaga. Kasi dinikit pa sa church eh. Ganun ka-famous si Aristotle that time. Many church leaders considered the idea of a moving earth as a threat. Not only their authority, but their very foundations of faith and civilization as well. Pero sabi ni Copernicus, accordingly, since nothing prevents the earth from moving, I suggest that we should now consider also whether several motions suit it, so that it can be regarded as one of the planets. Kasi for Aristotle, nakasteady lang sa Earth. Planet din naman yung Earth. paano nangyari na nakasteady lang siya at ang ibang planets umiikot sa Earth? For it is not the center of all the revolutions. Kaya sobrang kinontra yan ni Nicholas Copernicus. Kaya dahil dyan, he was prosecuted. Kaya siya prosecute kasi nga, pag kinontra mo si Aristotle, kinontra mo na rin ang church. Eh di ba nga before, ang church, yung government, lagi yan, magkasama that time. Ito naman ngayon, dito na ngayon nagsimula yung new ideas and concepts of motion. One of it na sumuporta kay Nicholas Copernicus ay si Galileo Galilei. Galileo Galilei discredited the Aristotelian ideas about motion through observation of and experiments. Si Galileo, syempre inaral niya yung mga philosophies, hypothesis ni Aristotle. Sa kanyang pag-aaral, gumawa siya ng eksperimento. Umakyat siya sa Leaning Tower of Pisa at pinag-compare niya yung isang maliit na bagay at isang mabigat at ibinagsak niya doon ng ilang beses in front of several people. So, anong napatunayan niya? Contrary to Aristotle's assertion, many observations witness the dropping of the two objects of different weight from the top of the tower hitting the ground together. So, para kay Aristotle, kapag bigat, mabilis bumagsak sa lupa. Dahil mas malaki yung property ng Earth kapag malaki yung isang bagay. Kapag maliit, less yung property ng Earth. So, it is understandable that many scoffed of the young Galileo and continued to hold fast to their Aristotelian teachings despite the evidence. So, bagamat na-witness na nila, nakita nila with their naked eye yung mga ginawang pruweba ni Galileo, syempre yung mga Aristotelian ay hindi agad-agad naniwala. Pero pinatunayan po yan ni Galileo. On Earth, motion always involved a resistive medium such as air or water. Aristotle did not consider motion in the absence of an interacting medium. So, hindi na consider ni Aristotle na may mga interactions lagi yan. Interactions lagi yan. Aristotelian motions require that an object requires a push or pull to keep it moving. So kapag for Aristotle, ang isang bagay, pinush mo, it will keep on moving. Hindi niya naisip na pwedeng may mag-resist depending on the surface kung saan pinush yung isang bagay. So doon ngayon pinasukan ng mga ideology, philosophies ni Galileo. At yung kanyang philosophies ay hindi lang base sa kanyang pag-iisip, kundi he did several experiments. Galileo showed that physics should be investigated by experiment rather than logic. So, sabi ni Galileo, hindi pwedeng logically pag-isipan natin yung mga bagay. Dapat patunayan natin by experimentation. In this way, he can be considered the father of modern investigative methods used in the way we study modern science. Kaya sisihin nyo si Galileo. Bakit merong research? Hindi magpasalamat kayo kay Galileo dahil sa kanya, na-imbento yung research. Na-imbento yung justification ng research nyo by experimenting new things. Galileo disagreed with the principle and he postulated that if there is no interference with a moving object, it will keep moving in a straight line forever. No push or pull or force of any kind is necessary. Sa isang straight line. Once, sabi ni once an object moves in a straight line, sabi niya, no push, pull, or force of any kind is necessary. Galileo tested this hypothesis by experimenting with the motion of various objects on a plane surface tilted at various angles. So, tingnan po natin yung eksperimento niya. Ayan po yung mga eksperimento niya. Galileo tested his hypothesis by experimenting with the motion of various objects on plane surface tilted at various angles. Balls rolling on downward sloping planes, speed up. Yung kanyang conclusion, speed up. Ayan. Kapag ang bola nag-roll down on a slope plane, ang tendency is to speed up. Kapag ang bola daw nag-roll up naman in a sloping plane, pataas naman siya, mula dito sa baba pataas, ang tendency, sabi ni Galileo, mag-speed down, mag-slow down, mag-speed down. Prediction balls rolling along a horizontal plane would neither speed up or speed down. Kapag sa isang straight plane lang, either, sabi na Galileo, depende kasi sa surface, it's either mag-speed up or mag-speed down. This idea was supported by observations of motion along smoother surfaces. The motion of object persisted for a longer time when there was less friction. Lessening the friction caused the motion afforded on greater to approach constant speed. Lessening the friction, or he predicted that in the absence of friction or other opposing forces, a horizontally moving object would continually move indefinitely. Kaya, isa sa mga hindi na-consider ni Aristotle, yun yan, yung opposing motion. There is always an opposing motion. Di ba, pag naglalakad kayo, bakit nakakalakad yun mabilis? Kasi tinutulak yung paa nyo ng ground. So, there is an opposing motion actually. Bakit kapag nag-roll ka ng bola, bakit humihinto agad? Kahit sabihin natin na wala naman siyang it depends upon on the surface area. So kapag ka-rough, higher yung kanyang opposing force, which is, tinatawag natin yun na friction. Galileo placed two of his inclined plane facing each other. So ayan ito, gumawa din siya ng iba pang eksperimento. Pinagharap niya yung dalawang inclined plane. He released a ball from position abreast at the top of downward sloping, rolled down and then up. So, ito nangyari. So, may mga conclusion siya dyan. Nung ginawa niya yan. Pwede niyong gawin yan sa bahay. Kung tama nga ba yung mga patutuon ni Galileo. Sabi niya, only friction prevented it from rising to exact the same height. Friction lang daw yung makakapaghinto niyan. For the smoother the plane, the more nearly the ball rose to the same height. So, dito. Or kung saan man So sa kanya, kapag smooth yung surface, kung gaano kataas dito sa kabilang plane, ganun din yung aabutin niya dito. Reducing the angle, kapag binawasan mo yung angle ng kabilang plane, cause the ball to rise the same height pa rin, but will never reach its initial height. Siyempre, binaba mo na yung plane eh. Ano pa bang isipin mo? Balls rolling on upward sloping planes lost speed. Yung kapag pataas, nawawala yung speed. Rolling downward, pick up speed. Kapag pababa, pick up speed. He hypothesized that balls rolling along a horizontal plane should neither speed up nor slow down. The ball would finally come to rest not because of its natural, but because of friction. Kaya walang natural motion, sabi ni Galileo. Kaya yan humihinto because of friction. Wala ding violent motion. The motion of an object persisted for a longer time when there was less friction. Kapag less yung friction, a moving body will continually move. Reducing the friction makes the motion approach constant speed. He predicted that in the absence of friction or other opposing forces, a horizontally moving object would continually moving indefinitely. Now, the tendency of the bolt is to move forever without slowing down in the absence of retarding forces. Kapag walang opposing forces or retarding forces, ang tendency daw ng isang ball, moving ball, is to move forever. Property of an object to resist change in motion is called inertia. So, si Galileo pala yung unang nakadiskubre ng inertia. In the absence of retarding forces, the tendency of the ball is to move forever without slowing down. Sana all may forever. Ngayon, ano yung mali ni Aristotle? Hindi niya naisip, hindi niya na-imagine na kung wala yung friction, hindi niya naisip na mayroon palang friction. Ano yung friction? An opposing force. Dahil doon, sabi nga dito sa ating outline, yung physics, ano ba yung physics? Study of interaction between matter and energy. So, parang ang nangyari dahil pinaglalaban niya yung apat na elemento, na stack up na lang doon yung interaction na yon for 2,000 years. Dahil sa kagawa ni Aristotle. Thus, the Earth of any other celestial body did not need to be constantly pushed for them to show movement. So now, dahil sa ginawa ni Galileo, nabuo ngayon ni Isaac Newton yung kanyang laws of motion. And that's all for this video. At kung bago ka sa channel na ito, huwag mong kalimutang mag-subscribe at i-hit ang notification bell on para updated ka sa mga susunod ko pong video lessons. Marami pong salamat sa panunood. Happy learning, everyone.